Hello, I'm Claire.
I'm Laura.
And we're going to talk you through the blood sugar module of the Functional Kinesiology Practitioner course. I've literally now become the blood sugar woman.
Great.
It's the song that I keep singing.
Yeah, this was really, really driven by Claire. And because it was something that we touched in when we did our training 10, 15 years ago, but it wasn't really a key fundamental part of the training. It was kind of an add-on.
Yeah.
And what Claire did was she took this and took it to a whole new level. And when we really started to understand the importance of blood sugars within health, within the immune system, within digestion, within hormones, within stress, it was this eureka moment of, oh my God, how do people not know this?
How do people not know this? And it absolutely transforms your clinical practice. Because I remember when I was teaching and a different kinesiology, and I started to get this feeling around blood sugars, and I started to say, I think the most important thing that we can do as humans to be responsible for this vessel, meat suit, is to balance protein suit is to balance our blood sugars. And people would often say, oh, no, it's adrenal work. And I'm like, yeah, but we are not going to get our adrenals completely, happy until we've got blood sugar stability.
Well, of course, when you look at the adrenal blood sugar insulin roller coaster that happens in the body. So if you're eating something particularly sugary and there's a spike in insulin, as we come crashing back down, there is a release of adrenaline. And so this interplay between the release of insulin and the release of adrenaline, so the stress hormones and the blood sugar hormones, they have this relationship. And so you can't get under stress, anxiety, panicked attacks. You can't get under them unless you balance your blood sugars.
And people just assume, oh, I've had a blood sugar test, my blood sugars are fine, but I eat really healthily.
I don't have diabetes.
Or, I'm eating granola for breakfast. I'm eating regularly throughout the day. I'm eating fruit, I'm eating vegetables. You go, right. But actually, we have a hormonal response every time we put food in our mouths. Every single time something goes in our mouth, the body has a hormonal response. I tell you, when I suddenly understood that this connection between something goes in my mouth and a hormone is produced, it was absolutely illuminating. So do I want that hormone to be insulin, which is fat storage, and as soon as we produce insulin, then our blood sugars are going to crash, and then we're going to produce adrenaline and cortisol? Do I want that reaction, which is actually going to keep me in some kind of stressy, anxious roller coaster? Or do I want the hormonal response to be something that's actually keeping my body calm, keeping my body energized, and keeping my body in a fully stable immune response? I'm thinking the latter. That's what I want. And so then it came down to, well, what does that mean from a dietary perspective? Because people come in and say, well, they're eating really healthily and they're having their porridge for breakfast, and then maybe having a salad for lunch, and then they're having, or they're doing, they're being quite vegetarian or vegan or focusing on alkaline diets, all of this stuff going on. And you can do any of those diets, but if you haven't actually got the right ratio of the macronutrients, the protein, fats, and the right carbohydrates in the kind of right ratios, you aren't going to have stable blood sugars. And once we really understood this work, everything changed. So my health has changed. I know that when I don't have that kind of structure in my diet, my symptoms are worse. We talk about it all the time.
I hear your sister.
It's absolutely illuminating. Then when we actually went on and did the research, and I didn't. The initial ideas are always mine. It's like I download them from the universe, and then Laura goes, oh, this is interesting. Diddly diddly dee. Does all this research. So helpful.
We should go into business together.
We should. I'm really not that detail orientated. I've got this feeling and I just got to give it a go. And then Laura's like, oh yeah, here you go. Backed up with loads of clinical research. We then discovered that with an unstable blood sugars, you then have, because of this immune response that happens, you're more likely to end up in autoimmune conditions. You're more likely to have elevated histamine, so allergies.
Bacteria in the gut, SIBO symptoms.
I mean, it's just...
IBS.
Yes. Oh, IBS and blood sugars. Absolutely incredible. So you could be following a low FODMAP diet, but unless you are making sure that the macronutrients are represented in the right ratio, you're still going to have your symptoms. So that's what we're going to teach you on this module, is we're going to teach you what does it actually mean to balance our blood sugars? What diet does that look like? Is it really faffy? The answer is no. It's really simple. This is how we should be teaching kids to eat in school. And then how to support clients with the conditions, plus the gorgeous techniques to get our blood sugars more stable.
And the nutrition. So we, like Claire said, we look at all the different diet profiles, but we also look at the supplements that are so key to balancing from a chemical perspective. So many times I get a client who comes in and they're like, I've been trying to diet, I've been trying to give up alcohol, I've been trying to give up chocolate, and I literally want to chew my arm off come 6 o'clock in the evening. And it's because their blood sugars from a chemical perspective are not balanced. So we give them a structure around the diet, and we give them some key pieces of supplemental nutrition, and those blood sugars change. And then they're saying, haven't got sugar cravings at 6 o'clock in the evening.
And anxiety, like it's stuff like you cannot get over anxiety if you don't have the right level of some of the minerals, for example, magnesium. And magnesium's key in blood sugar stability and blah, 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 blah. It all starts to make sense. And that is why blood sugars is the first pillar, the underpinning pillar in the triangle of hormonal health. And one of the reasons that we work with it first, before we start getting into all the technical things in the endocrine and the female hormones and the digestion, if we work on this first, it's easy because a client can really understand it. They can go away. They've got 21 opportunities a week. If they're eating 3 times a day, they've got 21 opportunities a week to start to rebalance their blood sugars. And it's effective. Like, they can feel a difference within a couple of weeks. And the other bit that's really interesting, and I think this is where we're very, very cutting edge, is that a lot of people just think of blood sugar hormones as insulin, but there are actually quite a few. And some of those are so key in that they also play a part in digestion. They play a part in weight stability. They play a part in our female hormones. Absolutely transformative. And so when just eating this balanced diet and supplementing isn't working, we then have a next phase approach of a diet plan to actually get those blood sugars really, really, really pulled in. And that in itself is absolutely transformational. You just had an experience of this, didn't you, where you were just like kind of going, I'm eating and eating and eating, and I just can't get full. I've had that situation.
Story in my life, I'm just eating and eating all the time.
Can't get full. And I've had that situation. And then we literally do like a few weeks on this other diet plan, and then you can feel your blood sugar hormones suddenly change. You go, oh, they're now under control. I get it. This is fascinating. And it's just so easy. It's so easy. And so many people are overlooking it. Are diets like the autoimmune diet, autoimmune protocol important? Yes. And a lot of people aren't teaching it in a way that balances the blood sugars. Is low FODMAP useful for some people? Yes. And they're not teaching it in a way that balances the blood sugars. Any diet that you can think of, veganism, all great and groovy, if you are doing it in a way that balances the blood sugars. And this is why it's so fundamental. I'm a little bit passionate about this, can you tell?
But it's so instrumental to our work, and we just see change in the clinic.
This is where functional kinesiology is really, really different. Really, really different. And I believe it's where it's so effective quickly, because people are changing their diet, and we're working with supplementation, and then we're also looking at things like their digestion or what's going on with their endocrine and adrenals. And so it's almost like we've got this multi-pronged approach of how to deal with their condition. Like, no stone is left unturned, but it's not just let's try this and this and this and this and this. It's literally this kind of this scaffolding or this net that we are putting around their symptoms and supporting their body. It's just so exciting.
That is blood sugars and diet.